Twinmotion, Lumion, or T5 render. It's time for another render engine battle, and this time, interior edition. There are many variables in interiors with reflections, light bounces, material depth, mood, subtle control that I'm genuinely curious to see how these engines will look against each other. Now, to make this a proper comparison and keep things fair, as fair as possible at least, I'm going to be using the exact same 3D model with the exact same scene on each of the engines. It's an interior with many different materials. There's this large opening on the left here for light, some varied object scales, reflections, greenery, and even this back wall to test a bit of displacement. As you see, it's somewhat of a complex model to fully test the engines. And I'll do two setups here. A wide daytime scene with the default sun and also a cloudy HDRI so that we have both options here. And then also a close-up night scene with artificial lights. And more than the final output, what matters almost even more, to be honest, is features, tools, workflow, speed, compatibility, and control, right? So as I go through each of the engines, I'll point out strengths and weaknesses, and also what to consider if you're thinking about switching. If you want to test this yourself, you can. I'll leave the exact same 3D model in the video description. To make this comparison even closer, I'm going to be using all materials from Poliigon, which I'm super happy to say is the sponsor of this video. It's my go-to library when it comes to high-quality PBR materials for archivists. So all materials you see today, from wood to fabric to stone, come from their library. It just keeps everything consistent, right? More on them later in the video. Now, I also give myself a strict time limit in each software because in real life, speed matters, right? How quickly you can get something usable and professional matters. I'll show you the results as we go, and at the end of the video, we'll have a perfect side-by-side comparison. I'll give you my honest thoughts, and you also get to judge who's the winner here. And more importantly, if you have anything to add after you watch this video, be sure to drop it in the comments below. I'm always happy to hear what you guys think. All right, so rules laid out. Now let's get started with Twinmotion. Okay, there's no other way to start this than with the obvious. It's a free software. It's definitely important. You get a proper path tracer, professional results, and you're not paying anything for it. That alone makes it worth at least testing. So the path tracer here, this is Unreal Engine's GPU-based path tracer. It's physically based light calculation. You get full control over the settings. And honestly, when you let it cook, the realism is really here, especially for interiors where light bounces and these micro shadows matter. Twinmotion also has a Datasmith, which is Epic's pipeline for bringing in CAD and BIM geometry. You get a lot of control over the objects and materials inside the software. Every piece of geometry here comes as a selectable object. And this makes Twinmotion feel very, very flexible during the visualization process. It's honestly the best live sync sort of connection we have in the software like this, which then leads me to another fantastic thing here, which is this objects list. It's clean. You can filter by items. You can see everything in a proper hierarchy. It's actually very useful for staying organized when you're dealing with a complex and large model. Now, another thing is the floating render preview. This is genuinely great. It's resizable, it's fully independent, as you can see, and you can even move it to another screen. It's super useful when you're tweaking settings and you want to see the updates in real time without really the UI getting in the way. D5 has this sort of preview panel, but it's docked, small, not resizable, not the same thing. You're going to see that later. Now, there's something minor here, but I think this is definitely a strong point. There's a current material library. You can see what materials are already loaded in your project. The previews here honestly could be better, but at least it's available. And now, speaking of materials, Poliigon is always part of any visualization workflow I do. It's honestly one of the best libraries online for architecture assets. It's a library that has intention, high quality, tons of options. And when I want to go beyond the included materials in a render engine, this is honestly my go-to. It really elevates the results and gives you so many possibilities. There are thousands of 3D textures available with weekly additions to the library. Now, I talked about what I believe is the more important parts of Twinmotion, the good stuff, So why not now we go into a bit of the weaknesses. And I got to start with the UI. It's not intuitive. There's just too many dropdowns. There's too much scrolling, and the stuff that you actually need is tucked away. Well, I feel that some unnecessary features get sort of premium spaces. Like adding material maps is such a core part of archivist work, and it's always hidden. I mean, there's inside the material settings, and then you gotta go inside the detail panel here. It's stuff like this that kind of slows you down. Next, the asset library is limited. It feels more like a video game library than something curated for architecture, especially when we're talking about interiors. And I know, yes, it connects with fab.com and Megascans. You have these options here, but it's generic, you know? And I mean, on top of that, when you want to download something, you want to use something, you got to download the entire asset pack just to pick one of the vegetation. You can't just grab what you need. It feels clunky. I mean, it's been like this forever, and they could have updated already. Now, something very, very important here. Still, there's no proper render channels. For interiors, being able to export separate passes for lighting, reflections, even materials. I know they have something similar, but it's not quite the same. And these kind of channels, they are really useful in post-production. Twinmotion doesn't give you that. So if you do any type of work in Photoshop, this is stuff that you gotta consider. And then we gotta talk about the path tracer preview here, which is not real time. I mean, kinda, it still is slow. We can only use it when the camera is still. Lumion then is obviously great for fast previews, sure, but then for interiors, you want the best light bounce handling and the cleanest reflection. So you just gotta wait for the path tracer to resolve after each of these previews and camera movement. Now, here's the thing though, because Twinmotion is kind of tied to Unreal Engine, and that direct integration can be very powerful if you need it. But that also means that Twinmotion has been left a bit to the side. It feels like this smaller software that's always secondary. No major updates have really come to Twinmotion in the past few years. It feels like Epic is focused elsewhere. But still, like, my conclusion here is that overall it's a very solid program. There's obviously professional results, no questions. Quality-wise, especially with the path tracer, it's right at the top. The default sun is good. HDRI handling is clean, and it handles artificial lights really well. But it might not be the easiest to use compared to the competition. The UI friction here can be in my opinion, at least it's a problem. And well, there's so much more I could analyze and talk about Twinmotion. Honestly, I could just make a full hour review on each of these engines and still wouldn't cover everything. So I tried to grab the most important stuff. And if you have anything to add, just leave it in the comments. I mean, other users can really benefit from this discussion. All right, so Lumion. And let's start with what it does well. The UI here is simple, really simple. So for a new user, this might be the easiest one to just jump in and start exporting high quality results fast. It's consistent, not necessarily the most realistic one, I gotta say, or one with the most control, but it gets you quick results. The material creation process here is very intuitive. Everything is visible, and you can add maps, tweak intensity, access even more settings right here. It's all laid out. There's no hunting through the drop downs. And this is where Poliigon really shines. All of their materials comes with the full PBR workflow, diffuse, normals, roughness, displacement, ambient occlusion, and more. Up to 8K resolution, it's a proper PBR library, which is why it works seamlessly across Twinmotion, Lumion, D5, or any other render engine. I've been using them for years, even before they were a sponsor on the channel, and I can genuinely recommend them if you want the best materials for your visualizations. Now, here in Lumion, inside the material settings, there's a simple weathering slider, which is a big plus. The foliage system is lightweight and works really well. The asset library here is decent. I mean, it'd be messy to navigate, in my opinion, but lots of good options for architecture. And it exports render channels, which is, as I said, very useful if you do any sort of post-production in Photoshop. Though there's a small caveat in this window we'll get to. But first, I mean, something really good is that now we have Lumion View. It's honestly huge. You can test space and light directly inside SketchUp before actually committing to Lumion Pro and going through this more heavy process. It runs super light here, and it's also available for Revit, and it should come out to other 3D and BIM software at some point. That's a big advantage for sure. And as I was finalizing this video, Lumion 2026 came out with a few minor new additions, but one that looks very promising is the new area placement tool. It's sort of like a scatter tool, and I know that it's not that used for interiors, but I thought it was important to mention this here. Now let's talk about the weaknesses, because yes, it's expensive. Everyone knows this at this point, especially for what Lumion Pro is actually offering at the moment. Now, being easy to use is an advantage at first, definitely, but as soon as you get better at ArcViz, Lumion feels a bit too simple. The UI is limited. It's got this sort of like video game feel that's just not appealing anymore. There's some things that just add up here. I mean, there's no Control Z still. There's a clunky sort of gizmos that you cannot just press delete button here if you want to delete something. There's no objects list to handle assets. No Control S to save it. You just gotta come up here every time you want to save it. There's a little bit of a limited HDRI control. I could list a few small things here, but for me, the worst part is really how the scenes work in Lumion. It's a whole different area. You can't just really build your scenes and frame your project as you go. They are separate into very distinct processes, but in reality, they shouldn't be, because telling the story of an unbuilt space requires you to constantly go back and forth between scenes, materials, assets, lighting, and here it's not that fluid of a process. And on top of that, you can't preview the ray tracing mode unless you're in this build a scene with effects, it makes the process a bit slow. And yeah, it's not path tracing, it's a hybrid ray tracing system that obviously improves realism, but still it's optimized for speed. And the implementation is still catching up. Like the vegetation, for example, behind a ray traced glass, when you enable this toggle here, just doesn't appear. See here? Now you can't output results past 4K resolution. And honestly, I would love to have full control over pixel dimensions, just like Twinmotion has and also D5 has it. There's an upscaler here, this AI upscaler that gets you to 8K, but it's not native 8K. It's not the same type of resolution. And even with the RTX Pro 5000 with the 24 gigabytes of RAM that I'm using, I randomly get this type of warning about not enough VRAM. Lumion sometimes feels a bit unoptimized. Here's the thing though, Lumion is well established. It's been in the market for ages and it gets you consistent results. As I said, I've used it a lot in the past and I still come back to the software from time to time. And now with Lumion View, it feels even more complete. And even though I went a bit harder with the flaws and issues, I can actually recommend the software if you can afford the subscription. It is a good software still. All right, let's move to D5 render. And full transparency, I use D5 the most, so I'm probably biased in this type of comparison. So for that reason, I gave myself less time than the other engines, and I'm forcing to do the same control test with no post-production. So aiming for the same type of results so that we can actually have a fair comparison. So let's start with the UI here, that in my opinion, it's the best interface of the three. Everything you need is within easy reach. There's organization here on the left with scenes, layers, and objects list. And then all of the settings go on the right with the environment, effects, the inspectors that change from object to object or materials. It's just clean. It feels very logical. It's got a real-time, and that's a very important word, real-time path tracing. This is huge. You can navigate and work on your model while path tracing is running. Twinmotion can't do this, as you saw. You have to stop moving and let the path tracer calculate, but then D5 lets you keep working. The asset library is the best one, in my opinion, compared to the competition, not just in terms of what's available here, but how it's displayed, how it's organized, and how easily you can navigate through it. And now, well, D5 just implemented D5 Works, which then extends this library even more. And if you want to have even more options, Poliigon is now expanded way beyond just materials. It's becoming this complete library of assets, lots of very detailed, high-quality models. And the good thing is that they always have available the FBX format, so they can come right into any architecture software. And it pretty much works the same in all of the programs, but it's as simple as just importing this FBX file format and then just assigning the maps in the slots, the diffuse, the base color map, the normals, the roughness, and that's it. It's a super simple process. Now back to D5 here with these small wins that really add up. There's this amazing scatter tool. There's an actual displacement that generates geometry, not just the simple bump map. There's one of my favorite features, the render queue, that you can track all of your images and video exports. There's this fantastic control over skylight, and in my opinion, the best video composer out there. a picture-in-picture preview, though as I said, not as good as Twinmotion's floating window. There's a perfect scene organization here with grouping and easy navigation and access to settings, and honestly, a lot more. But I think it's important to mention that D5 Lite now exists. It's a big advantage that's now included in the D5 Pro suite, and it's powered by the same path tracing. It is really good, but I've noticed that it's kind of heavy. It's a lot heavier than Lumion View. It creates that step between design and visualization. And at the moment, it's currently only available for SketchUp. And there's even an AI mode here in the D5 Lite that you can use to iterate with. And this really brings me to another of the strengths. And the last one here is that D5 is heavy on new tech and frequent updates. There's lots of these small AI helpers like the AI material snap, the AI atmosphere match, the AI generated texture maps, the AI agent, the AI model generator. I mean, you get the point. There's even the AI post-processing, which includes the AI enhancer. And this one I kind of use a lot. But obviously, not everything is sunshine and rainbows here. We got to talk about the weaknesses. D5 is the heaviest engine I'm testing here. It is optimized, but still it's very heavy. So you need a powerful machine to handle complex models. Just like the others, a dedicated graphics card, but here ideally an NVIDIA because of compatibility. It's actually because D5 lets you handle lots of geometry quickly with the scatter and other tools. So you easily end up with a file that's got millions of faces. It gets heavy really fast. I mean, Lumion is right behind it, but then Twinmotion runs much lighter if you're just using the path tracer as a final output. And also, especially then if you use Nanite, which I didn't cover before because it's very niche and specific, but it runs much lighter that way. Compatibility here, D5 Render does not run on Mac OS. Well, neither does Lumion, but Twinmotion does. Now, material settings, despite being more complete than Lumion and Twinmotion, it still feels a bit limited in some scenarios. Material templates, they make it very easy for beginners to use, but they also limit complex material creation. Like, what if you want sliders from a cloth preset, but also maybe a displacement and also maybe a subsurface scattering? You can't do that. Next, I think we gotta talk about the live sync being very simple. I mean, it works super well. There's nothing really to complain it, but the important model comes in as a unit, no individual object handling like in Twinmotion. You're always tied back to your 3D software for changes, and I don't mind that personally, but I've heard a lot from users migrating from Twinmotion to D5 that this really makes a difference. Now, a minor thing here is that there's no current material library like in Twinmotion. So when you set up materials, you always have to apply them in relation to existing geometry in the file. Now, here's what you need to consider if you're thinking about using D5, is that D5 evolves fast, updates come frequently, which is great, but that also means that you need to keep adapting to changes. Light, shadow, and reflections are handled extremely well for the speed you're getting, but if you're coming from something like V-Ray, Corona, or Cycles, you might find advanced material control to be a bit more limited. And worth mentioning, the D5 forum and support are some of the best I've seen. They really listen to the community. All right, guys, I know this has been long, and we just want to take a look at the side-by-side comparison. But before that, I actually got to remind you guys about Poliigon. They've got free materials and assets you can try out. Very simple, just create an account and you can download it at all. And when you're ready to upgrade to a paid plan, just use my link in the video description for 10% off. And actually, if you're a student, you get 50% off when signing up with a student email. I'll leave everything in the video description, as well as with guides from Poliigon on all of the 3 engines. I highly recommend taking a look. Very useful stuff there. Okay, that's enough. Let's actually compare these images. First up, the main scene with the default sun in all engines, starting with Twinmotion, then Lumion, and D5 Render. Quickly once again. And now details, because you can really see a few important things here. Next, let's take a look at the cloudy HDRI, so Twinmotion, Lumion, and D5 Render. And this is not necessarily the mood I wanted, but it's more to get a different type of result so that we have more to compare them up. Lastly, let's do the close-up with artificial lights. So again, Twinmotion, Lumion, and D5 Render. I don't want to influence you too much here, so the idea is not for me to do the comments and full analysis of the results. But remember that this is the exact same model with the exact same polygon materials. All that changed was the engine. So pause or go back if you needed to really take a look at the differences. And what are your thoughts on these results? Which one stands out the most? Which one has some visible flaws? Does one feel more realistic than the other? Just maybe better lighting, better shadows, more depth, and more mood? Let me know your conclusions down in the comments below. Again, I know I'm biased since I use D5 Render more than the other programs, but I try to do this as fair as possible. And actually, I use D5 a little bit differently. I use HDRI combined with the default sun for some of the interior images to get an even moodier setup. So that it looks like this. Obviously, to keep everything consistent, I didn't show this result before. Still, now getting to the final conclusions here. The best engine obviously is the one that you know how to use it. As you can see, they all got fantastic results in a very short time. Comparable render times with comparable quality, right? Personally, it comes down to tools and features in my opinion, and that makes the process, what makes the process more complete and allows you to get better, more complex results. So if you're in a budget, obviously Twinmotion is solid. If you want kind of simplicity, Lumion definitely works. And if you want the most complete tool set right now, D5 is my pick. And remember that we're talking about engines for architecture practices, all right? Not something that it goes strictly to ArcViz studios. Though these real-time engines, they are getting good, that some of these studios are picking them up as part of their tool set. I hope you guys liked this video. It's obviously based on my take on all of this. It's not necessarily right or wrong. You might not agree with this, and that's okay. I just want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.